Hi, and welcome to another session of Ahweb. Today, we're going to be talking about chakra meditation. I'm sure you've heard about meditation before, but what exactly is chakra meditation? We've got a wonderful person here with us today, Lisa Erickson, who's going to tell us something about the chakras and how that can help us with our normal day-to-day living and managing our stress levels. So welcome, Lisa.
Hi, Parm. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here all the way over there in Los Angeles, isn't it?
I am in Los Angeles, yes. Middle of the day here.
Fantastic. So Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved in meditation in general and chakras in particular?
Yeah. So I started meditating over 30 years ago, just after I'd gotten out of college. I had actually had a little bit of meditation exposure in college in a yoga class. But after that, I went into the work world. I was living in New York City. I actually worked in technology, and I had a very stressful job with a lot of deadlines. And I started experiencing headaches and stomach aches. And after having various medical tests, all of which turned up nothing, someone actually suggested to me that I try a meditation class, which at that time was not that common, right? There wasn't yet as much information as we now have as how meditation can benefit stress. So I gave it a try. I found a meditation class, and as it happened, it was a chakra meditation class. And there are many kinds of meditation, right? A lot of mindfulness meditation focuses more on the breath or presence, and I also practice and teach that. But this was a chakra or energy center based meditation. And that started a lifelong love. I ended up studying with a teacher formally for many years and then transitioning eventually into energy healing and energy work, because that is the other thing that we work with the chakras on. There's chakra meditation, and then there's also chakra activations and healing work that you can do, all of which can be beneficial with managing stress and anxiety.
Fantastic. I noticed that one of your teachers was the famous Cindy Dale. Is that right?
Yeah, she's one of my main energy work, energy healer teachers. I've taken many classes with her, and she wrote the foreword to my first book, Chakra Empowerment for Women.
Fantastic. That's how I got turned on to chakras. I think it was through her book many, many years ago. Now, a lot of people who are listening might have decided that meditation is something they could think about doing, but the chakras maybe sound a little bit too complicated for them. Could you put them in layman's terms?
Yeah. Well, the chakras are energy centers. We have an energy body, just like we have a physical body. And the chakras are like the organs. Like in our physical body, we have a lung and a stomach and a brain. In our energy body, we have different chakras, and there are different mappings around the world. But the main one that is the most well-known is a 7-chakra mapping with 7 energy centers corresponding up the center of your body, aligned kind of with your spine, from your tailbone all the way up to the crown of your head. And each chakra corresponds to a physical body part. And if you're working with it in energy medicine, it corresponds to different organs and different body systems. If you're working with it from a psychological perspective, they each connect to different emotions and different aspects of our psyche. If you're working with them from a spiritual perspective, they each tie to different ways of awakening or different pathways to awakening. But you don't have to know any of that information to benefit from working with them. Really,
Lisa, sorry to interrupt, but Lisa, is it a little bit like acupuncture meridians? Because I've talked about acupuncture before. Would you say it's a correlation, or is it a completely different system?
It is a different energy mapping. The meridians are based more on these channels, and it's more linked into the physical body. And so but they are 2 different energy mappings, and there's a lot of crossover in terms of the main intersections of the meridians. A lot of them do correspond to the chakras, but historically they develop differently for different purposes. Acupuncture and Chinese meridian system was developed very explicitly for physical healing. And a lot of chakra teachings came out of spiritual traditions. So it was more about personal growth and spiritual awakening. Although within holistic medicine, we recognize that the roots of disease are physical, mental, emotional are all hooked together. So that's
Absolutely.
how chakra meditation links into energy healing as well.
That's what I make a big point of with my little interviews, is that everything does impact on everything else. And at this current time, wherever you are in the world, we're all feeling the stress of living with this new phenomena, if you like, which has been this pandemic. And even though we can now see light at the end of the tunnel, I think a lot of people are tired of dealing with this stress and strain, aren't they? So stress is a very destructive factor, isn't it, on our health, if we don't do something to use it positively. And I'm wondering if you can give us perhaps a little bit of insight on how chakra meditation in particular might be able to release some of that frustration, anger, sorrow even. Could you think of a way we could use that?
Yeah. For this time right now, for stress management and for managing loss and grief, right? Because our lives have changed so much. Plans have been canceled. We can't see our family, these kinds of things, right? In addition to potentially having lost someone. Many people around the world have lost someone they love and they're dealing with that grief. So in terms of managing anxiety and loss, we really are working with the heart and the root chakra. The root chakra is about feeling safe in your body. So a very simple meditation that you can do is just to visualize bringing your awareness all the way down to your tailbone and your sit bones and feeling the weight of your body. Everyone can try it now that's listening.
This is really good. Yes, carry on. I'm trying it.
Yeah. And then visualize a red light is coming up from the earth, and just below your body, it starts to create this protective bowl that you're sitting in. And then some of the red light goes into your body and brings this soothing, stabilizing energy. And you can just sort of sit and breathe with this feeling that you're receiving that. And as a meditation, you might do that for several minutes. And every time your mind wanders, you bring it back. And there's several things going on here. One is you're activating your root chakra because it's connected to your tailbone. That's linked to our adrenals. Our adrenals is what gets overactivated when we're feeling stress and anxiety and raises our stress point. So we're trying to calm your adrenals down. We're also trying to lower our energy because what happens when we're stressed is everything goes up here usually. We're spinning up here. We literally get tense up here. So with this, we're trying to get that energy balance, get down into our lower body. And then we're making this earth connection because the root chakra is linked to the earth element, and earth is about stability, ground, that feeling of safety, firm ground underneath us. So just by doing this for a few minutes, you're bringing about all three of those activities.
Fantastic. And in terms of perhaps releasing some of that mental stress and frustration, is there something we can do for that which might, I'm thinking of releasing it this way rather than just earthing it, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, you certainly could release it that way. You certainly could if that helps. I think in general, it's helpful to release it down into the earth for most people because our tendency when we're feeling stress and anxiety is to disassociate a little bit, leave our body. Some people very prone to escapism, and a little escapism is okay, right? We've all been binge watching way too much TV, right? but it can rise to the point of becoming a dysfunctional pattern or habit. Isolation is doing that to a lot of people right now, right? So they're very non-present. As we do that, we begin to get spacey. We begin to disconnect from our body. That means that incapacitates our healing system. So I like to bring it down and imagine you're releasing it into the earth because it affirms this kind of embodiment. But it definitely is a valid release method to just wherever you're feeling something in your body, imagine it's liberating right there. You know, that's fine too. But that's the reason I like downward.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. But I'm thinking what you're saying also makes a lot of sense from the results that we've seen in the majority of people, which is a tendency to perhaps, like you say, binge watch or even binge eat, because we don't quite know what to do with the extra energy we have, because actually, if you're staying in one place, you have more energy, don't you, than you normally have, because you're not running around so much physically.
Yeah.
You agree?
That's true, but I think part of the challenge right now is a feeling of stagnation, because we are stuck in one place, and it's like you're in this house or apartment that you've been in every day for a year, or almost a year, with not getting out as much as you used to, not going to work all day, not socializing as much as you used to, and it gets very stagnant. So the other piece of it is sometimes people actually don't feel more energy. They're like, wow, I'm sleeping more and I feel less energy than ever. And it's really this feeling of just stagnation, nothing to look forward to. So when someone comes to me and that is their main issue, I actually recommend bringing energy up through all the chakras in a cycle. So it's like you actually go root, sacral, navel, heart, throat, third eye, crown, root, sacral, navel, heart, throat, crown. You just kind of imagine it, and you can just get a simple picture of the chakras and imagine like you're trying to get a sense of movement going to break that stagnation. Now, I think when you're talking about people who feel restless, right, and then end up maybe overeating or something like that, that to me is more like releasing some of that energy into the earth, and getting into the navel chakra, which is about purpose, finding some directed purpose, centering in the navel for that activity, finding an activity to direct it. Yeah.
That sounds really good, because one of the flip sides of what's happened this year is a lot of people have discovered or rediscovered their creativity, and they're making things at home, whether it's being more creative with their food or picking up a hobby like a musical instrument or art. They've actually managed to find a way to channel some of that energy, haven't they?
Absolutely. And that is the plus side of this. We're also getting to feel what it feels like to not be so busy, maybe out and about, having more time for ourselves, reconnecting with people in our family. So remembering those lessons as we turn the page on the year, I think is a really important piece of this. I've been saying, like, what do you want to leave behind as we go into the new year? What did you gain that you want to take with you? And those are great examples, right? And then what do you aspire to in the new year, right? That's kind of the 3 steps of turning the page energetically.
Fantastic. That's really good. Just to come back to chakras a little bit, you mentioned that you were drawn to it, or you encountered it in terms of your own headaches, I think you said it was. What are you've worked with a lot of people over the years, what have been some of the most surprising, perhaps, or huge benefits of working with the chakras in your experience?
Yeah. Sometimes I've had people who have allergies have gone away that they had, which I find, because that's happened more than once. So I find that very interesting, even though we weren't working specifically on that. So that's interesting to me. And allergies, like childhood allergies, are something that can change throughout your life. Some allergies you have your whole life, some you outgrow, some you get later in life, but not younger. So it is something that changes. So something in energy work can do that. I work a lot with sexual trauma survivors, and often sexual trauma survivors experience things like ovarian cysts and uterine fibroids or urinary tract infections, physical issues in that whole lower part of their body. And as they work with healing from their trauma, the emotional wounds, those recurring issues also often dissipate, along with physical healing. I'm a big proponent of combining physical modalities and conventional medicine with alternative modalities. So if someone's really having physical problems, I don't want them to only be working with me. We're working on the emotional and energetic roots and elsewhere, and they work together. And so then the problems stop recurring, because when they're just getting the physical treatment, it gets treated, comes back, gets treated, comes back. And then eventually you stop that cycle. So those are big examples.
Yeah, they are. And one question just from other healers' perspectives is that energy work is extremely powerful, but some therapists do struggle with maintaining their own boundaries so they don't become exhausted throughout the work. Is there something, is there some advice you could offer them?
Yeah, this is a big thing for all therapists in energy work. I have a tool that's in my book, Chakra Empowerment for Women, that is rooted, again, those lower chakras, so important. The root and the navel. Together, those two really help us create a boundary, what I call the second skin. And it's like energy right on top of your skin. And it serves the same purpose, except energetically. And as you can practice that for every day for a few weeks, and it'll start to reprogram your default, where you still have your intuition, you still have your emotional intelligence, you can still sense what people are feeling or their energy, but you don't take it in.
So it's like a coat almost, like a lab coat.
Yeah. Now, sometimes for that to work, people have to do other work. It's women, especially, because we can sometimes have conditioning we have to change. We have conditioning around it's my job to take on people's emotions, or I'm a healer, I'm supposed to take on their energy, or maybe as children, our parents made us the one responsible for their emotions. So sometimes you have to do some releasing around that for this kind of reprogramming to take. But just working with your root and navel can really help you develop your boundaries.
Thank you for that. And I saw from your website that you've also looked at the science a little bit as well of chakra work. What was the most surprising fact you uncovered when you were doing that kind of research?
Well, one of the most amazing studies, Heart Math Institute has done a lot of work around the heart chakra, and I can't remember the numbers right now off the top of my head, but the electric, vibration of the heart is truly amazing how far out it reaches. And that's really what we're dealing with when we're dealing with our own energy field, right? A lot of the experiments, the book on water molecules, also I'm forgetting the name, but how water molecules are, impacted by different energies when we say different words. It's very interesting. Plants, there's been a lot of fascinating when you say different words to plants and how they respond.
I saw that on somebody's Facebook page, and I was absolutely stunned because the plant died, didn't it, after it was, bad words were said to it after for a couple of weeks. And I just thought, I don't want to think about the number of bad words I've heard in my lifetime, but it's just good to be aware that everything we do has this energetic impact. And I think the wonderful thing about chakras and the study of chakras is that it reconnects us to that idea that we are actually more than ourselves, if you like you said, with the heart energy, we are bigger than the body in a way, aren't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we're all interconnected. And I feel like that's one of the themes of 2020, right? Is interdependence. I mean, this global pandemic, it's been a global pandemic. Who knew there could be something that impacted all of us all around the world, right? And how interdependent we are. Its spread is dependent on our, individual responsibility, whether you feel at risk or not, right? So you're impacting other people, your actions, and it's real interdependence. And that is what energy teachings always are. We have our energy body, and then we have this matrix. We're all connected with anyone else. And the positive thing about that is that we can choose to draw on the light that's at the inner core of our own chakras and emanate that out into the web, and it positively impacts everyone else, right? I think of this example on social media, right? You reached out to me, now we're here connecting, maybe someone hears this and benefits. This is the positive side of the interconnectedness of our world. Yeah.
And also I'm thinking of prayer and how that has translated into physical actions, such as the sharing of medicine across borders, as well as research. It's actually quite phenomenal the amount the world has been able to come together, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it is. And obviously there's conflict. I'm here in the US. There's a lot of debate and conflict. That's natural. But there has been an unprecedented level of cooperation on the scientific level. Hopefully these are lessons we'll learn, for the good going forward.
Fantastic. And before we move on to your books and courses, I have a little question about the spiritual dimension of working with chakras. And we've talked about the mind a little bit and the body and how that can be impacted by chakra meditation. what are your thoughts? This is a big question, I know, but what are your thoughts in a nutshell about how it can help us reconnect with the divine or God, or however you see the spiritual dimension?
Yeah. Well, the chakras have all these different levels, and meditation does too. So you can meditate and you can work with the chakras just to kind of learn to manage your stress. You can work with them in your daily life to learn to bring forth, I need to be more confident, I need to speak more clearly. They're very practical. They can help you in your daily life. But ultimately, the chakra meditation in particular, and really all meditation practices, came out of traditions that told us, we can connect to the divine. And really, chakra meditation, you bring through an energy called the Kundalini that is specifically linked to spiritual awakening, however you define that. The idea is that as you work with your chakras, it's like you're cleaning a window. You're clearing away all these obstructions to this natural light that wants to run through your body. And when that light runs freely, it connects you with divine light that's in everyone else and that's in the world. That's a very simple way of putting it. So ultimately, I think all chakra work is linked to that. You may come to it for stress management. You may come to it for personal growth. You may come to it for healing. You don't have to be consciously pursuing spiritual awakening, but it is bringing that forth. And at some point, you may be interested in it. That's sort of how I view it.
Fantastic. You must have witnessed some incredible personal transformations with the people you work with.
Yeah, especially working with people that have had a lot of trauma. It's really gratifying to feel this unfolding. Someone who's been very guarded or very afraid or locked in illness or something, to over time own their energy and really be able to come into joy in their life and relating to other people in a whole new way. And that takes time, especially when someone's recovering from trauma, but it is possible.
Fantastic. Now, how can people find out more about your work through books and your online courses? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I have 2 books. I'll hold them up.
Right.
Chakra Empowerment for Women. So this is really chakra work. It's based on women's energetics, which we didn't talk as much about today, but how women's energy bodies shift, and also sexual trauma healing. But it's really also for women, how to use the chakras in your daily life. And then the Art and Science of Meditation, is not chakra specific. This is all forms of meditation. It's really a resource library. So it's not a how-to book. It's more for someone who's already experimented with meditation and they're looking for answers to common questions and challenges. My main website is enlightenedenergetics.com. Yep. And then the book website for Chakra Empowerment for Women is chakraempowermentforwomen.com. And my next course coming up is tied to this book. And it is my 3-month intensive working with that material and adding some additional material in. And I have some free events right now, but I have some other events that haven't been announced yet for 2021, some of which are meditation focused, some of which are explicitly chakra focused.
Sounds wonderful. Just tell us a little bit more about the 3-month one, because that's the one that's coming up in January, isn't it?
Yeah, it starts January 26th. Yeah, so in this one, we do use this book as the course book, but we go into more detail. It is a live course every 2 weeks, but it's recorded. So for someone who's in a different time zone. And I also do 3 additional breakouts that the group votes on, what topics as we get towards the end they want more time with. Each class I'm doing empowerments to help you experience that particular chakra that we're working with that week in more depth. And we are clearing blocks to experiencing that, especially for women, because this is a women's course. We're very focused on conditioning, boundaries, owning your divine feminine and feminine power, and also women's life cycles. So menstruation, pregnancy, postpartum, energy lines, all these kinds of things, and going into, it's very practical work. It's very much oriented around daily life. What happens in daily life that impacts your inability, or triggers you in some way, and triggers you into a pattern that blocks your power, right? And how do we work chakra-wise to bring that forth?
That sounds wonderful. I might sign up myself for that one.
I'd love to have you. Yes, I'd love to have you. It
sounds very exciting, because as I say to people when I'm doing these podcasts, not every therapy works for every person.
Yes.
And you might have tried something else before. You might have tried traditional talking therapy. And the good thing about something like chakra therapy or even acupuncture is it will shift the energy more or less whether you want it to do or not. So you just have to engage with the practice.
Yes.
And you can experience amazing things in your life as well as in your actual physical health, can't you?
You absolutely can. And you know, if I can share one story on this, actually, this has happened a few times where someone has been pursuing medical treatment for something. It's not working. We start doing energy work, and we may or may not be even working on that physical issue. We're working on other things. And then all of a sudden, they go to a new doctor or they see a sign for some treatment and it's the thing that works, right? And it's like the energy work didn't explicitly heal the physical issue, but clearing the energetic issues created some opening for some new physical modality to cross their path that finally solves the problem. And so this is how it works. Everything's interconnected. And as you open, information can get to you in new ways, right? That's really how it functions.
Makes it all much more exciting, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for your time today.
Thank you, Parm. Thanks so much for reaching out and for doing this interview. I appreciate it.
And I will mention all of Lisa's books and courses and websites on the podcast handout, and it will also be mentioned on my website. So I look forward to welcoming you all back to the next Ahweb interview, which I will hope will be very soon. So goodbye for now.